People meet us, like you were saying, even our accountants, like everywhere we meet people and they get to know us, they're surprised that like, wait, you guys are in business together? You haven't killed each other yet? Like, that's weird.
We're equally as surprised. It's like, why are you asking this question? Like, are other people not getting along? I mean, isn't that the essence of a partnership?
No, that's not normal, guys. And I can say that because I'm a consultant and I've traveled all over the world working with business owners. And I love how you both naturally fit in and work together. And at the heart of it, what a lot of people probably don't know about you guys is you both have a heart and you both care.
What's up, everybody? This is Joe Vega, and welcome to another Flower Shop Secret podcast. And today we have Angela Proffitt with us. Hi, Angela.
What's up, guys?
And Ken Garland. How you doing, Kenny?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. And Ken, as you guys know, is my business partner. And today we're going to do a little bit something different. Today, I will not be the host. Angela is a great podcast host already from her own podcast. What's your podcast name, Angela?
It's called Business Unveiled.
That's great. So you're going to be the actual host during this particular podcast, correct?
Yes, and I'm so honored. I'm so excited that you guys asked.
Yeah, well, let's go. Let's do this. So the big question is this: how can small business owners like us in the flower industry overcome the greed of order gatherers and bypass the deceitful games played by wire services? How do we market, sell, and deliver flowers online so we may break free from these antiquated practices and earn our freedom? Those are some of the questions we will answer on this podcast. I'm Joe Vega. Welcome to Flower Shop Secrets. Watch now on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for new episodes.
I love that I get the opportunity to do this because I met you guys years ago. And when I started my first business, my uncle told me that business partners were bad. And then I met Ken and Joe. And I got to see their chemistry together, and I got to learn all about Lovingly and go to New York and meet their phenomenal team. And then that myth of business partners don't work went out the door for me. And so I'm excited to talk with you guys today because, while I know a lot of the story, I don't think that your customers and I don't think your clients actually know the whole story. So I'm excited to jump in. So first, for our listeners that don't know really anything about Lovingly and how it started, how did Lovingly even get started?
Well, Lovely got started. First of all, Ken and I actually worked at a bank, an investment bank in 2004, 2005. So we knew each other back then. And I got to be honest with you, Angela, the first time I met Ken, I never in a million years would have thought that he was going to be not only a business partner, but a friend, because we just didn't click right away, right?
Tell the truth, Joe. I was a jerk to you.
Their personalities are very different.
Yeah, but I think that's why it works, actually.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So we were working for an investment bank, and I had left that investment bank, and I went to work for a major wire service. Let's just say that the oldest wire service. And what I was, that's when I got introduced to the flower industry. I got introduced with working with florists, and that's where I saw an opportunity there. In the meantime, Ken had also left the investment bank, and you went to start your own company, right, Kenny?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of freelance work and had a small web design company with another friend of mine, and yeah, it was an interesting time. We were walking the beat in New York City and just trying to find, clients. There's so many people that didn't have websites then. It was unbelievable. So we would constantly just show up and say, hey, and pitch somebody an idea, and they'd either sign right there or we'd go back to the cafe and drop our business card and hope that magically we would get some new business.
So then you guys were just talking one day, and I mean, take us back to like how Lovingly was actually born, because Joe, I know that you're the one that had the connection to the actual floral industry, right?
Yes. So when I ended up working for the wire service for about a year and a half, but that was enough time for me to find something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And how I found it was, I used to travel in North America. I used to be a point of sale installer. So my job was to go there to fly somewhere in North America. I've been to a lot of weird places, like places I couldn't pronounce at the time, like Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, for example. You know where that
Spell
is?
that.
Yeah. And it's I used to fly every Sunday, land there Sunday night, Monday morning, I would pack the equipment, and one thing led to another. And I used to get really close with these flower shop owners, and a lot of them would complain about the state of the industry at the moment. And I found a lot of synergy working alongside with them. And once I stopped working for the wire services, I really didn't want to get a 9 to 5. I did not want to go back to the 9 to 5 life again. It just wasn't for me, especially coming off of traveling every single week. But traveling wasn't for me either, because you kind of, a lot of people think it's glamorous, and it is for like the first month, but then it just gets tiring. I don't know how air stewardess do it, or pilots, but it's pretty tough. I ended up doing a lot of consulting work for a few shops. A few florists gave me an opportunity, and I saw it as a business. I was just getting by. And in the meantime, Ken and I sort of kept in touch. We would still meet at these, after hours, with someone would leave at the bank that we used to work in. They used to throw like a little party, and we used to just talk to each other there. And again, nothing overly friendly. It was just like, oh, you left? Oh, I left. Oh, you're in business? I'm in business. Kind of like, was that for you? Does that sound accurate, Kenny?
Yeah, absolutely. It was always at the bar, and we were both kind of talking about what we were up to, and it was really, yeah, and it was very intriguing. Joe was always talking about this magical formula of SEO and things of that nature, and I'm over here talking about, well, how do you code this? What are the different designs? What are the different algorithms that you want to employ and things like that? And we were just hitting it off at the bar and just talking geek talk, really, and alienating everybody else.
So, Joe, you felt the pain point though, or
Yes.
very early on. It sounds like, because, and I know both of your personalities very well. They couldn't be more opposite, but that's why this works. That's why this is such a beautiful partnership, because the way that Ken's brain is wired, it brings something to the table that Joe, your brain doesn't do, and vice versa. Joe, you're out there, boots on the ground, getting in front of the people, making the relationships, which is where the pain points, as we all know, if you're listening, you're a business owner, you should solve a problem. That's why you open a business in the first place. And so, Joe, you are driven by the relationships, and you are driven by wanting to fix these pain points for these business owners. And so, which one of you were first when you said, let's go into business together?
Well, that's the most surprising part of this story, right? Because we actually didn't say that. What happened was, Kenny knew I was already in business, doing business with florist, and he was also doing his side gig there. But at the time, his business partner had decided to just go back to school, so he was solo. I was solo, and Ken calls me up one day and he asks me, "Hey, Joe, I know you're looking for a place to sort of work instead of working out of your home or cafes. And there's this place called Sunshine Suite, which is kind of like a WeWork. And back then that was brand new. No one, like a co-working space wasn't a thing back then. It was all starting to come. And so we went, he's like, hey, do you want to go with me to check it out? And I said, sure, let's go check it out. So we went together and we liked it. You get your own receptionist, you get an address of New York City, which is kind of like a big deal. You get a 212 phone number, again, a big deal in New York City. That's a huge deal, especially back then. And we were working side by side. The way the co-working space worked is you get a cubicle, and the cubicle it seats two people. And so I had my business. I rented a not the cubicle, but the actual desk. And Ken is also rented a desk. But we asked the guy, hey, could we sit together? Because they were going to pair us up with other people because we were coming in differently, right? So we were like, we're only going to take it if we actually get to sit next to each other, because we at least know each other, right? I wasn't comfortable sitting next to a stranger.
That's
So we were,
weird.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's co-working space, right? So we were
Well,
working for like 14 days until we figured like maybe we should just work together. It happened
yeah,
organically.
and the desk that we had this like metal sheet divider, right? After 14 days, we're like, we're gonna rip this thing out. Like this is stupid. Let's because really, like when you think about a desk, right? Think about a little bit of a longer desk. We kind of shared the same desk. It's really what it is. We squeezed into a tiny little cubicle that had this plexiglass door that in a future story I'll tell you. One time I even locked Joe in. He had to crawl out underneath. So it was a tiny little space, and that's where it all started. And we had the size of a monitor now, a little tiny whiteboard that we hung with a string on the side of this on the side of the cubicle, right? And that's where we would keep our notes and keep our first telephone number and things like that. It was definitely very, very interesting.
So tell us about your first client. Like, how did you guys get your first client?
Well, our first client was Rosette Floriste, is a flower shop in Montreal, and it's one of the flower shops that I actually did an install for when I was working for the wire service. And this is a very special shop because the couple that owns it, we're very close to them. They're still with us till today. Uh, Francine and Lou Lavina. Lou is it's a pretty interesting individual. He's in his late 80s at the moment, and he's a
Mhm.
mentor to us. And we wouldn't be here without him, I would say. So that was our first shop.
So is that the couple that said, because you've got to tell the story, Joe, turn it off. Turn it off, Joe. Or is that a
No,
different person?
that was a different person. That was before I got together with Ken. That's when I knew I had something. So the story goes, it was 4 days before Valentine's Day in 2007, and I was doing some SEO work for a shop in Edmonton, Alberta. And her name was Karen, and when she came in, she saw that the printer was full of orders, and she got happy, and she just, the printer was printing, and it was out of paper, like it was beeping. And so she replaced the paper, and she was like, "Oh my God, these are so many great orders." And she went off to do florist stuff. Then, like 20 minutes later, she heard the printer actually beeping again. And that's when she freaked out. She's like, "How am I going to?" So she was like, "Who is doing this to me?" Joe. Joe is doing this to me. So that's when she called me up. And she's like, "Joe, you need to turn it off." I'm like, "Turn what off?" "You need to turn Google off." I'm like, "I don't think you could turn Google off." And I just instructed her to call the wire service website she had at the time, and just basically like just shut down for the day. She could have easily had done that herself, but she was just freaking out because she didn't buy enough flowers. She didn't have enough designers to arrange all these orders that she just got. So she was already envisioning getting yelled at from all of these different people because there was no way she was going to be able to deliver all these arrangements.
So that's when you knew that you were onto something.
Right.
Because
That
I think that's
conversation.
key.
Yes, that's when I was like, "Whoa, this SEO stuff is bananas!" Like,
That was the
and I,
epiphany.
yeah, that was the light bulb moment. Every business owner has that light bulb moment, right? And I could tell you the difference between a shop uh, in Edmonton, in Canada, and a shop in New York City, right? During the exact same day, I was speaking to Karen around 7 a.m. and this is what she was telling me, and crying on the phone, telling me to turn Google off. 3 hours later, Chris from Booth Flower Shop gave me a call. This shop is in New York City, and I didn't even get a word in. The same thing was happening to him, except he decided to just call me, and he just says, "Joe, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it." Click, and just hung up. So he was ready, willing, and able, and happy. He was gonna make it work somehow. So that day was I was just like shocked. I was like, "This is powerful. This Google stuff, this SEO stuff is powerful." So.
And you guys learned it really early on. So here we are, over a decade, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, 13 years in now. And so over time, I know that each of you have grown in your roles. But what I love about both of you is you stay in your lane as business people And Ken, you take the stuff that you are naturally good at, and Joe, you do the same thing. So tell us a little bit about what's your day-to-day role, which guys, if you're a business owner, this stuff changes like constantly. But right now, because we've just gone through a major transition, not just with COVID and politics and buildings and shifts and changes, but day to day, Ken, what's your role in Lovingly?
Yeah, over 13 years, my role has really morphed in all sorts of different directions. In the very beginning, I was programming, I was doing the coding. I built the first couple iterations of the back end, right, of our platform that we have. And over time, at the same time, I was managing the financials. I was managing the human resources aspect of it, right? Any kind of facilities type stuff. And as a business owner, you kind of have to be able to do almost anything and everything that your business requires. Even I remember maybe like 2 years ago, I was in the office. When we still had an office, I was in the office, and we've got a lot of employees now, and they see me walking down the hallway with a ladder and light bulbs. I'm going around changing all the light bulbs because we need something that's more energy efficient, or we need it was bothering somebody, or who knows what it was. But it's like, yeah, you know what? It needs to get taken care of. And I can find somebody, I can hire somebody, I can go through the whole process, but that takes time, right? Let me just grab these things, put these up, and get it taken care of, right? And the same thing goes with everything else. Like, one of the huge challenges that we were faced with, and I know a lot of companies were faced with in 2020, was with COVID. What do you do? Things were shutting down left and right, and we are quite fortunate to be able to effectively work remotely. I mean, we're a tech company at the end of the day, right? So we've always been having people work remotely here or there, whether there was a snowstorm or not, or we had individuals that always worked remotely, whether it was in California or in Florida. So we were pretty well equipped. But things were moving really quickly, and we had to make a decision, right? And one of the things that we had to do was shut down the entire office. And instead of renewing our lease because it was up and paying a fortune for something you can't even use, and we don't even know when we'll be able to use it. So one of the things that I had to do with the help of somebody else at the office was, we need to figure out what we're going to do we have over 10,000, we had 11,000 square feet of space. Where's all the cubicle systems going to go? Where's all the furniture, the servers, the computers? Like, we had to scramble. And, I worked with somebody else at the office, and we just found a new place, found storage, hired an entire moving company. And within a couple of weeks, we were able to vacate the space and leave it the way it was when we first found it. So yeah, you always have to be willing to pick up the baton whenever it's, your turn, whenever you're called for.
And your superpower is the data and the analytics and the research. And I can just see you right now. It's like the blinds are closed and it goes dark in the office. And there's Kenny, and he's researching all the storage stuff. And then he's crunching numbers, and he's like, we're going to save this much, and we can do this for our clients if we close this, and everybody's going to do this. And Joe, you would rather be swimming in your pool, I think, rather than doing that.
Well, yeah, Kenny's he's the most structured person for sure. He's a numbers guy. He's a business guy. I'm more of a creative. I love the chaos. I thrive in it. I like people, and it was a perfect marriage in the beginning, right? Like, because he was a web developer, which means he's a coder. He works with code, and coders need something to code. It needs to look like something, and I was a designer at the time. By the way, everything we're both college dropouts. So everything that we've learned has been self-taught, right? So I was dabbling in design. So when we first met, it was just design and engineering or the development, they just go hand in. You can't have one without the other. They literally need each other. So it was just like a perfect. It just made so much sense to work together. So I took care of the design. In the beginning, I did a little bit of sales, which I did not enjoy, but I was the people person, so I had to do it. Definitely the SEO, of course, and the marketing. But then I found a new love, and that was the conversion rate optimization, which means basically getting as many purchases from the websites as possible, right? So a lot of that goes into product development. There's a lot of psychology that goes into that. So I just completely, I'm still in love with it today. It's my go-to. It's what I enjoy doing. So, and that's, I owe a lot of our success to the crow part, conversion rate optimization. So that's basically what I do. Our, people meet us, like you were saying, even our accountants, like everywhere we meet people and they get to know us, they're surprised that like, wait, you guys are in business together? You haven't killed each other yet? Like, that's weird.
But we're equally as surprised. It's like, why are you asking this question? Like, are other people not getting along? I mean, isn't that the essence of a partnership?
No, that's not normal, guys. Not normal. Not normal. And I can say that because I'm a consultant and I've traveled all over the world working with business owners. And I think this was such a natural morph, and it is your personalities. But the main reason that you all work, and again, I can say this because I work with so many different business owners, is one word: respect. You all respect the hell out of each other. And Joe knows his stuff and Joe stays in his lane. And Ken, you go to Joe for that. And then vice versa. Joe, you do the same thing. And I've been part of some of the discussions with you guys. And I love how you both naturally fit in and work together. And at the heart of it, what a lot of people probably don't know about you guys is you both have a heart and you both care, which is not, it seems so simple, but from a genuine perspective, both of you are so genuinely caring that you first care about your team members. You care about those people. Every single time I was in New York, and it's been more than a few times working with you guys, and you all put the people first. And there were times where you're like, Angela, I know you're here to like work with us, but we got to go to take care of some people stuff right now. And then we'll come back to this. Even if we have to stay up till 7 or 8 or 9 at night working in the office, we're going to make sure that our people are good and our clients are good. And not every business owner, and a lot of business owners I even see after being in 5 years, they lose sight of that. They lose sight of why they started, why they're good together. They know they need a team of people because they can't do it alone. They invest in their people and they invest in their clients and they listen to their clients. And I've watched you all over the years morph into this amazing customer service. And both of you are still so involved, which is not always normal, especially in a tech company, So Joe, what's your day-to-day role? What are days looking like for you right now?
Oh, besides putting out fires at the moment,
Yes.
well,
Firefighter extraordinaire.
yeah, firefighter extraordinaire. Right now, I'm involved in the creation of the marketplace. So a little bit of product development, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of design. Basically, everything that I'm used to doing besides the sales. Ken has taken over that part. He's managing the sales team. So design, marketing, conversion rate optimization, product development, all that. That's my day to day.
So Ken, what is one thing, just one thing, if you had one thing that you had known before you started this business, what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah, I would say buckle up, kid. You're in for a ride. It's been a roller coaster ride. It has its ups, it has its downs, but it's well worth it in the end. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. But it has its challenges. It also there's a lot of risk involved. I don't think a lot of people really understand how much risk small business owners or just business owners in general take on. We're not some VC backed company where you've got Wall Street dumping millions of dollars in your pocket and just say, hey, try anything. We put our reputation on the line. We put everything that we have on the line to build this business so that we can provide for our families, provide for the families of the people we employ, and also make a profound positive difference in all these towns where we work with retail florists. I mean, that's, I don't think everybody really understands the, how far the impact of Lovingly actually goes.
And I know I want to talk about that in a moment because I know Joe got a GoPro and went on the road before this thing called coronavirus, and you really, really, really got to see. But before we go there, Joe, what's the one thing that you would tell yourself, your younger self, when you first started? Is there one thing that you wish that you had known?
Yes. And for me, that answer is really easy. And that is, so when Ken and I met at the bank, we actually, the environment there, at least in the beginning, was pretty toxic. It was a toxic work culture. It was really bad. So when it was time for me to leave, it was an easy decision for me to leave because it just wasn't that great at all. I think I would tell myself that creating a company culture is going to be your biggest challenge, because no matter how much you try to do the right thing, because people are people, and we all we all want different things at different stages of our lives, and sometimes it's just not a good fit, or sometimes it's a great fit. It's all over the place. So as you're growing a company, I would say just be patient and just stick to it, and that's what I would tell myself.
Got it. So when you all first went into business, though, it actually wasn't called Lovingly. It was called UFN. So what was UFN? How did you come up with UFN? And then why the switch to Lovingly?
Well, I'd like to add one more thing to that. So even, UFN is how people actually knew us. Before that, they knew us more like United Florist Network. But secretly, underneath all these brands, it was really Particle Ventures. That's really what the company was called. And the reason when Joe and I started it, the reason we called it that, it's like, wow, we're going to start this floral business. We're going to get this off the ground, and then we're going to do the next thing and the next thing. And we're going to have all these businesses, and it's going to be so much fun. Yeah. So 13 laters, we're still doing this because it's tremendous amount of work. It's, it was a little naive of us in the very beginning, but yeah, so UFN was really the acronym of United Florist Network. And we were, at that time, we were just like, what do we call ourselves? We had no idea. We didn't have the training and the know-how of what you needed to know in order to develop a brand at that time. And it was just United Florist Network. Everything is fine. And as we were adding more and more florists, United Florist Network is a mouthful, so then and our industry is full of all sorts of acronyms when it comes to companies. And so they just started calling us UFN, and it just stuck, and we kind of just ran with it.
So why the change over to Lovingly?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Whose idea was it?
So
was it Joe's
okay,
idea?
so
It was
yeah,
on
so like-
Valentine's, right? It was like
yeah.
one Valentine's snowstorm when we're trying to find a different brand.
Well, yes, it was. It was a Saturday morning too. It was a snowstorm outside.
Yeah.
We came in. The reason we changed the name from UFN to Lovingly is because UFN is obviously an acronym, right? And unless you're BMW or some 50 or 100 or IBM, an acronym is not really, it's what you call in the marketing business alphabet soup. It's like if it needs a description, it doesn't work, right? And we had higher aspirations to just being, the current products that we had at that time. We wanted to actually create a national brand so that we can help florists out even more. And as a national brand, UFN wasn't cutting it. As a matter of fact, if you was to type the words UFN in Google image search, you would get some flowers, but you also get guys beating the hell out of each other, because UFN stands for Ultimate Fighting Night. So flowers and blood don't really go well together. So we knew we needed a name change, and we had a list of requirements when we actually sat down and we went through a bunch of names until we sort of like hone in on Lovingly. We were almost called Pide, Pide. That was the second name. That would have been a horrible name, but it just happened so quickly, and we actually went with Pie for one day until we came back the next day. It's like, yeah, Pie's not, we're just not really feeling it, and we feel lucky to have the name Lovingly.
It's such a conversation starter. And I'll never forget when I saw both of you walking down the aisle. I was working a trade show booth on some technology thing that I was doing at the time. And here come Joe and Ken with their navy shirts and the pink heart with their jeans and their sport coat, because that is their go to look. But it's such a conversation starter. Everywhere we went to dinner. Every time we would go somewhere, every waiter, waitress, what is that? What's on your shirt? What is Lovingly? What does that mean? It's a heart. But most importantly, it strikes an emotion. And did you all know the impact that you were going to have from an emotional perspective when you rebranded?
No, not really. I mean, the name was Lovingly. Like, it could mean so many different things, right? Like, it definitely sparks emotion. Definitely sparks romance, and other things. It could mean, it definitely sparks curiosity, because when I'm wearing the shirt and people would stop me at fast food joints, be like, what is that? They're curious about it, and it's recognizable. It definitely leaves a mark. I went to a few years ago, I went to the bank, and the local teller there was like looking at me weird, and I was like, okay, this is odd. But she's like, you guys are at 52 Route 52, which is where our address was. I'm like, yeah. She's like, you're Lovingly, right? I'm like, yeah, that's the. It's like, I see your sign on 52, and you're the only sign I ever noticed, because our sign is part of like a bunch of other signs, but ours is the only one that stands out. So I was like, wow, this brand is great. We're lucky enough to have it.
Good choices. You made good choices. So, Ken, when is a time that you can recall when things got really tough? Like, is there a moment where you're like, damn, I don't know. I don't know how we're going to get through this. I don't know when we're going to get through this, but we're going to get through it. And how did you handle that as a business owner?
Yeah, great question. Well, something, the way I never think that things are impossible, that there's no way forward, right? There are always options. There's always things you can do. You just have to put your mind to it. I'm a really, really strong believer in that. So I was never ever at a point where it's like, oh, this is going to be it. I don't know what we're going to do. It's really just, you know what, we need to focus, we need to figure it out, we need to move forward. And there were actually, definitely a few instances. It wasn't an isolated case, because as you know, starting your own business, it has those ups and its downs. And, I always tell people I have a crystal ball, but it doesn't work. You don't know what's coming around the corner, and you can prepare all you want, right? But you never know at the end of the day. And there was definitely an instance where we had a situation where we were, we manage a lot of finances. We manage a lot of money. Florists depend on this money coming to them, right? And there can't be any errors. There can't be any mistakes. And there was definitely an instance where one of our back-end providers had a flare-up. Things weren't working well. And I was at the office. This was our previous office. I was there until 1:00 in the morning, making sure, writing code, making changes, and ensuring that the next morning that money was going to show up in all these florist bank accounts, because that, it was just completely unacceptable to me that we would be at fault for something like that. And, I was sweating bullets, but at the end of the day, it worked, but I was going to make sure it happened, because that was just something that just couldn't happen, right? So that was definitely one instance. And another one, this one's more comical, I want to say, is Joe used to say I was cursed, because every single time I would take just the slightest vacation, the shortest vacation, it doesn't matter where I went or what I did, every time I went somewhere, something critically went wrong. And I was going with a buddy of mine and we were going to Mexico, and I just, I'm landing in the airport. I finally turn on my phone. I'm getting frantic text messages from Joe. Where are you? What's going on? Et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just like, I don't know. Hola. And
I'm
I'm
on
going,
vacation.
I'm on vacation, and it's hotter than hell. I go to an internet cafe. I didn't have anything with me. I go to an internet cafe. I have to buy minutes to use this rinky-dink old computer on this old dial-up connection in Mexico. And Joe's on the phone with me, and we're trying to do a remote connect. And I'm like walking him through what codes to punch in and what changes. He's like, the sites are down. We need to get the sites back up. And here I am sweating. And my buddy over there, he's drinking his pina colada and's like, let's go hit the beach. I'm like, nope, can't do it. So always something happens. So.
But the bottom line is you're always there. And you hear these stories from entrepreneurs, at least I do all the time, and all the books I listen to, all the podcasts I listen to. It's like there are a lot of sleepless nights, and there are a lot of nights that we stay up. And if it's like, why are you doing that? But you do it because you care. That's what it goes back to.
Mm-hmm.
And you also hear people say, like, how many of you, like, I know I've been in a room of like thousands of entrepreneurs who own multiple companies, and they're like, how many of you can take a vacation and like go to a remote island and you're chill for 30 days? And it's like that DNA, that makeup doesn't exist. It can exist, but the bottom line is no matter what, you are there through thick and thin of, even if you're in Mexico on a vacation, I bet you travel with a laptop now. Do you take your laptop?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
have
even
to.
when I was going to Europe, I'm taking my laptop with me, and there were many, many times, I'm visiting family and they're yelling at me, "Why aren't you spending time with us?" And it's like, I can't. I have a responsibility. At the end of the day, I have a responsibility to ensure that everything runs as smoothly as possible, because like I just mentioned a little while ago, there are countless numbers of people that depend on us. So we have to be there for them.
And something that I just want to really point out, to go back to, that you said, I don't know if you like have these 3 F's in your head that you talk about all the time, but you specifically hit on a few things that if you're a business owner and you're listening, having the attitude and the mindset of always knowing there's going to be a way to move forward. Don't give up. You have to focus, which is the number one thing. And if you don't know what to do, if there's a problem in your business or a problem in your company, call Joe. I'm just kidding. But seriously, get a mentor or get somebody. Joe and Ken are out here that they can figure it out with you. So you've got to hunker down. You've got to focus. How are we going to get through it? And put a plan together and then move forward. And so those 3 F's, like focus, follow through, and move forward, are really important when it comes to running a business. And so I just wanted to point that out because that's something that's really, really important. So Joe, what's your one time when you recall that you were on vacation or there was just not necessarily vacation, but there was a tough time when you were really like, I don't really know what to do, but you handled it and you did it. Like, what was your tough time?
Well, I was not planting things before I go on vacation for them to go wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
You didn't even take vacations for the longest time.
Yeah, Kenny's always encouraged me to take vacation, and that's one of the things that I have to get better at. I'm like a workaholic. I just
you scheduled one last year, but what happened to that one?
COVID happened. Unfortunately, that one time and we were going for 10 days and it was really looking forward to it. I haven't taken a vacation before then in a few years. Like, I was really looking forward to it. And then we ended up not going anywhere because obviously COVID happened. But the one, I can think of a few times where, things hit the fan. One was there was in the beginning we didn't have our own selection guide, right? So we depended on florists providing, they were members of a wire service, and because they were members of those wire services, they have permission to use the wire services selection guide. However, florists would just quit the wire service and don't bother tell us that they've quit it, so they're no longer able to use the selection guide. So we got a letter or two from the wire services telling us that we're not allowed to be using these images, which they were correct. They were no longer members. So we quickly acted. We developed a small selection guide really quickly with the help of Amy Nightingale, our first employee. She's still with us. She created the first selection guide, and we didn't want to take a chance of getting more letters, because the letters, was very threatening in nature. And we replied to the wire service. We actually asked them, hey, how are we supposed to know that, if a florist is a member of yours or not? Could you give us a notification from these members, that way we know that they've left you and they're no longer able to use the selection guide, and we're on the clear? They just said, nope, we're not going to do that to you. So we were like, all right then, so we're not allowed to use your selection guide whatsoever. So what we did was, overnight, we quickly just switched about 100 florist selection guides. I was on the phone for days. So was Kenny. We were all there trying to explain to our shops at the time that we had to make this change, and they were like, they don't understand because they're a member of the wire service. I'm like, yeah, but they can, they're talking a big game, and we were really small at the time. We didn't want to take any of these risks, so we just pulled through, and we came out all right after that.
So I know that there's a lot of changes coming out, like with the floral industry. Let's just be honest. Business is ever changing for all of us, no matter what industry you're in, but especially in the floral industry, like as a whole. And I know this because my uncle had a florist, a small your town florist on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and I've watched it over the years morph and grow. And if you don't keep up, you get left behind, bottom line. And florist has turned into something so different from what it started. I remember where when I was a little girl, I would just go in and it was like the refrigerators and like nothing was pretty. Like the shop, that wasn't the expectation because gifting hadn't started yet. And so then gifting was introduced. And then now you can, and I don't even know what year it happened, but I also remember my uncle saying, like, oh my gosh, people are going to be able to go to the grocery store and you can do this 1-800-Flowers thing. And I got to get a website. And there's a whole host of just business entrepreneurial things that as a florist you were expected to do, but then no one like taught you how to do it, and no one like taught you how to integrate all these different components that technology was bringing to the table as a florist. And so then I watched his shop morph into more of like a design center where you would walk in and you see all these designs. And then that brought, well, do you have a scanner system? Like how many chairs do you know that you have in stock? And there's just all these things that florists have been thrown at over the years. And then you have things like Pinterest that come out. And then you've got the consumer saying, well, I want my stuff to look like that. And then the pressure's on the florist. And so there's all these little things that I bring up that it can be incredibly stressful as a creative when you're just trying to make some freaking flowers for the community, people. I mean, come on. So what changes do you see coming down the pike now that this online consumer shopping, it's been going on for years, but when COVID happened, there's a real difference being able to go online to someone's website, which by the way, guys, if you're a florist and you're listening, you should know this. The flower industry has spiked because people want to deliver things to not only people that are sick, but people that are alone and they're sad and they're depressed and they can't leave their house. So there's all these changes that have happened over the years with the floral industry. So what do you guys see? Like what's ahead? What's coming in the 2021 that the floral industry, they need to be aware of it. They need to focus, get a plan together, and how are they going to move forward to continue to stay relevant?
I would say that a lot of flower shops right now are realizing that they don't need a retail store. So a lot of them are going to be moving to design studios, pay cheaper rent. A lot of them, some of them are moving to their garages. which is fine by our book. We consider a florist to be, as you know, there's a lot of fake florists and order gatherers out there, but the way we define a florist is if you can arrange and deliver your own flowers, you're a florist, right? So I think design studios is the one that I would say would be there'll be more of in the future. And another thing is because there's the industry is doing really well right now because of COVID and deliveries. People can't see each other, so they have to, they want to be there. So the next best thing is to send some flowers. I think a huge challenge for shops right now is finding good help, finding good designers, finding delivery drivers. I'm not exactly sure what, you know, exactly what this generation that's coming up now, they're not exactly into the whole world of floristry. They're, arranging flowers is difficult. It's really hard. It's tough work. You're wet, you're dealing with thorns, literally, like it's tough. And, finding good help, I would say is the thing that is going to be a challenge for shops.
And even though, I'm sure some shops, I know, the local community shops, you can always go to your local college and you can also always get interns. You can always sign up for things. But something that I really noticed over time is that exactly what you're saying, like these design studios, and then people set up these backdrops in their garages, which whatever, and they want to show people how to do flowers and they just want to make videos and then they want to monetize it on YouTube. That is a completely different type of florist. Okay, what if you had to reproduce that one bouquet or that one look 50 times and go deliver it to nursing homes and hospitals? That's a whole different business model. Then you take it a step further, and then you've got the design studios that I'm most familiar with where they don't deal with the public at all. They are 100% special events, private events, and even when COVID hit, there are still virtual events going on where we need flowers, we need backdrops, we need stuff to look amazing. So whenever I talk to florists, and because I'm on the consulting side of things, I have to step back and say, what do you really want? What makes you the happiest when you are creating these things? Do you want to do it for TV? Do you want to do it for a YouTube show? That's one thing. That's great. Do you want your company to be able to deliver all of these things? Or do you actually want to be in special events? And so there's different sectors that you can bring on and different revenue streams. But you've got to keep up with the changes. But even before you keep up with the changes, take a step back and say, what am I going to do for me? What am I going to do for my family? What am I going to do? What's going to make me happy in serving the community? And there's two specific stories, Joe, that I want you to bring up where I know that well, even before the podcast, and even when I first started working with you guys, I'm like, you guys have got to do more video. You've got to capture more emotions. Like Lovingly has changed so many lives and the trajectory of so many small business owners. And you've got to celebrate that. You've got to show people that power. And so one of the very first trips that you went on, I'm like, you got to get a GoPro, put it in the car, and you drive around and start to see what Lovingly has done for these people. And it's incredibly emotional to be able to see these things. But there was one gentleman in particular and you guys posted a video in your Facebook group, and I'm not a crier, y'all, but this man, him and his wife had been in business for so many years. And what did he tell you that Lovingly helped them do for their family? Do you know which one I'm talking about? The home?
Yes. So that came about. I decided to take a trip, a bit of a tour. It's the first time I've ever done that, actually. And it turned out that I actually miss going to flower shops. It's fun. I feel right at home in a flower shop. I did it for almost 2 years, every single day. And it's fun. And there was the stories that came out of that were amazing. I wasn't expecting any of that at all. There were a lot of people, it felt kind of weird, to be honest with you, because, they knew me, but I didn't know them exactly. It was the first time that I was meeting them. And every time I would walk into a shop, we visited about 5 or 6 shops. in the Portland area, and it was a bit strange for me because I was like hugging people and kissing babies, basically. Uh, no, I'm just kidding. But that's how it felt because they were so welcoming to me and to my assistant at the time. And it was so amazing. And the gentleman that you're talking about basically told us that was the most heartwarming visit of them all, because he basically said to us numerous times that before he got with Lovingly, he was not only arranging flowers, but he was actually, you know, um, driving a cab at night just to make ends meet. And because he joined Lovingly, he ended up just becoming a full-time florist, which was great. The story didn't stop there. By the way, he's there with his wife and one of his daughters, and he was able to expand his shop. He kept people around his plaza kept going out of business, but he kept expanding into more business. He was doing fantastic. And he was telling us when he first met us, I think he was doing about $120,000, give or take, when he first got started. And by the time I visited him, which was 3 years later, he was doing about over $540,000, which is completely a huge increase. And he also told me that, we are partly responsible for putting his daughters through college. And they actually just closed on their dream home last month, and all this great, amazing stuff. And I'm like, I wasn't expecting that at all. And it was just an amazing feeling. I never felt that before. It was just completely awesome to feel that. So that's what happened there.
And this man, he's like, oh, turn the camera off. I'm going to cry. And there's not many men that you see, even, you think of flowers and mushiness and men, and it's not like that behind the scenes, guys. Like, it's not every day that you walk in and men start to get emotional when you start to ask them about the business side of things. But that's what the tech piece, that's what Leavenly has done. And then there was another recent story that you were sharing with me about a woman, and all she wanted was to be able to work with her daughter and have more time with her daughter. So,
Yes.
what was the backstory with that?
So the backstory with that was also during the same trip, and she had a really small but beautiful shop in a really nice, trendy area. And we weren't there. We were there for about 3 hours or so, and things were going well. And again, a lot of hugs. I was getting a lot of hugs, so it was great. And as we were leaving, I was trying to keep it professional in a way. What I mean by that, it was like, oh, I'm glad things are working out, very transactional. And she kind of yelled at me in a good way. She's like, Joe, stop it. And I'm like, okay, what just happened? Like, I don't know. And we were recording this, by the way. And she's like, it's not about the money. You have no idea what you guys have done for us. I'm like, what is that? She's like, I get to work with my daughter every single day. Before I joined you guys, I was about to quit I was gonna go get a job. And now I could leave this business to my daughter. It's not about the money, Joe. It's about what you have done for me and my daughter. Her daughter's right there. It's like, and that was such an incredible moment for me, because when I got back to New York on the plane, I couldn't wait to see that video, because a lot of times, our team works incredibly hard and they do an amazing job, but they are they're disconnected a little bit from what the fruits of their labor actually mean. And I'm there experiencing it. So part of me was like, I couldn't wait to get back to say, look, guys, you're not just designing or coding or supporting. It's like, you're doing meaningful work. This is what it's really all about. It's not about the website. It's not about the conversion rate. It's about this. This is incredible. So it was a really heartfelt moment for me.
Yeah, so it's stories like that I just think it's really important to highlight, like, what's going on in the background of these things. And things aren't always perfect, and business isn't always perfect. But what the Lovingly community and what the moment makers need to know is you guys are working behind the scenes to make sure that all of these changes that are coming down the pike, that from a technology standpoint, like whatever they want, if they stop and think about it, like, you've got them. You've got them. You will help them get to whatever their goal may be. So, Ken, what is one piece of advice that you would give our floral listeners if they can apply it in their business today? Is there one thing that you would give them a piece of advice that they could do right now in their business that would change the future of their books, their business, their everything, what they're doing day in and day out? One thing.
Yeah. Measure what matters. There's also a book called Measure What Matters. It's pick an objective, pick a goal, pick what you want to achieve, whether it's this month, this quarter, this year, or maybe just, for the life of your business. What is that one objective that you're working towards? And then pick a few, 3 or 4 key results, 3 or 4 things that you're going to measure that will tell you whether you're successful in reaching your goal or not. And what that really creates is a North Star. It creates a North Star for you so that you can stay focused and keep on track. It creates a North Star for the people that work with you so they know, what are you trying to achieve? Is it that maybe it's something you want to get, that you want to buy the shop down the road, or maybe you're looking to retire early, or maybe it's that dream vacation or that dream home that you're trying to purchase, right? Make that your objective. Now figure out, what are you going to measure to make sure that you're able to reach that objective.
And I know, go ahead.
And we've done that ourselves. We practice what we preach. We've done that for our own organization. And what it allows everybody to do is understand where we're going, how we're going to get there, what are we going to do about it, right? This focus is so critical, whether you're a large business, a medium business, or a very small business. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there.
Yeah, I actually just did a video last night on TikTok, and I said, when you buy a flight, you know where you're going. You would buy a ticket, and if you're going to be going into rain, because you look at the weather ahead of time, typically, you're going into snow, or you're going to go hang on a beach. So why entrepreneurs and why business owners and us creatives, like Joe and I, we're like the worst, where it's like, we don't know where we're going sometimes. And, surrounding yourself with people to make sure that you know where you're going for your business. And it could be something so small, but when you put it up on that vision board, and like you said, Ken, as long as your team and your employees, like, you got to know, everybody needs to know. Like, don't bottle it up. Don't keep it inside. Like, if you want to do 100 orders in a day, plaster it up there, manifest that. You can do that. So we know that that's one book that you would probably recommend. Do you have any other favorite books that you would recommend for people?
That's pretty much my favorite book right there. Measure What Matters by John Doerr. And it's really written for a lot of like tech type companies, but you can do that in any kind of business. And going back to your analogy about the flight ticket, right? You buy that flight ticket. Let's say you're going from New York to LA. You know where you're going to go. All right. And the pilot, they file a flight plan. But just like business, they don't follow that flight plan 100%. It's got its ups, it's got its downs, left and right. But you know what? They know where the destination is, and they can always steer themselves right back on course. And the same thing is true in business.
Yes, yes. Do you have any advice in terms of just building a brand? If someone is starting a new brand?
I would say have a growth mindset for building your brand. A lot of times when you're building a brand, you sort of take the identity of the brand, and it becomes a little bit like confusing in terms of, am I the brand, or is the brand me, or how do I want people to perceive the brand? I would say have an open, have a growth mindset, and like do as much research as possible to sort of learn how to grow a brand. Brand is a really hard thing to build. And it's very sensitive, and you can lose it at any time, right? So it's not only building it, but also maintaining it is the hard part, I would say. Because even after you build it, it could be a house of cards in terms of the access, with social media for now, or, somebody could leave a bad review. All of a sudden you're dealing with a fire. If you have 1 or 2 people that's upset with you now, no one looks at the 98 that are not. They're only looking at the 2 that are pissed off. So you just have to stay strong. You have to keep the lines of communication open with those who do love your brand, and don't allow yourself to sort of get down for the people that are sort of on the fence about it, because you're always going to have those people. So That's what I would say to that.
You're always going to have the trolls. And
Yes.
guess what? You're not for everybody. So
You
focus on
can
the
please
good.
you can please some of the people some of the time.
Yes. And that one of my favorite books with branding is Story Brand by Donald Miller. It's a great read. It gets into psychology. So if you're thinking about a reshift or a brand or just taking your brand to the next level, like that's really one of my favorite books. So a lot of people have faced everyone, not just a lot. Come on, let's be honest. Every one of us has we have faced challenges through this pandemic. And there's things that Lovingly has done to overcome some of these roadblocks that a pandemic has put in front of you. And so, is there anything that you can share from experience to help people that are still maybe facing a major challenge with the pandemic? Something that they could do that could help them get through the pandemic?
Sure. So I can go first. One of the things that we developed is we call it a lovingly exclusive theme. And, when the pandemic first hit, it took down the whole floral wholesale, pipeline. You couldn't get the flowers, a lot of flowers went bad. So a lot of shops were open for business in some states, but they couldn't sell, there was a misalignment between what the customers were buying and what they had in the shop. And the floral supply chain was literally up in the air and it's broken. It's still a little wacky right now. So one of the things that we did was we developed a lovingly exclusive theme for the everyday, which basically turns your entire website into a landing page that only sells the Florist Choice product. So when a customer gets to that homepage, they're only allowed to sell, they're only allowed to buy, excuse me, the a lovingly the Florist Choice product, which means here's some money, here's $100, florist. Just, I don't want to be in trouble. Just save me, do whatever you want. And the florist can now clear their cooler. They can make something amazing and everyone's happy. So that's one of the few things that we did. There were other things, but I would say that's for everyone.
That's perfect. That's an amazing solution. Amazing.
I would also like to add to that is, you know, the pandemic is scary, but we as a country, we've been through a lot worse, believe it or not. We really have. I mean, just think World War II and how we bounced back from that, right? So anytime you're feeling a little down and you're concerned about the futures, remember it's like the people before us, they've been through this too. And look at what the economy was able to accomplish. So I would go back to being very scrappy, right? Really thinking about where can you cut costs? Where can you make a few temporary changes until things really get back on track? For us, we had to look at a lot of different things, right? One of the good things that we had actually is we founded the company during the financial crash in 2008. So, everything was tanking. We thought, why not start a business now? Because this is an awesome time, right? It's just like right now. You have people starting businesses. You have restaurants opening up. You have new florists going into business. Normally as a sane person, you would say, this is a terrible time. Why would you do this? But those people have a dream. They have something they're trying to achieve. And it's the constraints that the pandemic puts on you that forces you to think outside the box, right? And it's really understanding that there is always another way, and really give that some thought, and you will find that way and you will be successful.
That's awesome. So I have one last technical question because I don't know if creatives really know the behind the scenes. How does Lovingly compete with the wire services?
So we just recently launched a marketplace, and we're so psyched about it because in order to compete with the wire services nationally, you do need a national brand. And that's one of the reasons why we also changed our name from UFN to Lovingly, right? Competing at a local level with individual shop domains it's doable, but it's got its limits, right? Google makes hundreds of billions of dollars a quarter, and 85% of that money comes from paid search. It's either 80 or 85%, but who's counting, right? And they want you to, Google wants everyone to pay them to play up there, right? It's like the new arena. And in order to really play there on a national level, you need a national brand. So how we compete with the wire service um, is by we're building this national brand to help local florists.
And one key differentiator on that is, you look at the wire service, they have their national brands, but they also dictate those prices. One of the things that we do very, very differently is we show what the florist wants to charge, right? At the end of the day, you can create all the arrangements you want, but are you able to express that artistic freedom? Are you making profitable orders? That's what it really boils down to at the end of the day. And that's what the Lovingly Marketplace allows you to do.
So as we wrap up, guys, and this has been so much fun, so much fun. We always have so much fun. Is there any more stories, compelling memories, meaningful things that you want to leave your Moment Maker community with?
Whoa, that's a quite the open-ended question. I would say if there's any florist out there who have business partners, I think it's really important. Like Kenny and I didn't even notice or realize what sort of special relationship we had or we have still. And we started asking questions, why do you think it works? And there's a lot of answers to that question. We're still learning. At the end of the day, we want the same thing, right? How we get there is not that important. The important thing is we get there. So it doesn't matter. Like when we have a topic and we're debating the topic, which by the way, we've in 13 years of working together, I think we've had 2 arguments that were sort of like really real arguments. And they had nothing to do with work. It had everything to do with like guy stuff, stupid, silly stuff. Don't even say it. Don't bring it up, Kenny.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's just silly stuff. It doesn't even matter. It's so minuscule. It's unbelievable. But in terms of work, I don't remember a single time we've got pissed off at each other. So I think working together with your business partner is all about having an open mind and putting your ego aside. Ego is the enemy. That's another great book.
Absolutely.
And to me, like I'd rather be wrong 100 times and get it right than be right 100 times and get it wrong. Right. So I think that's a huge part of why our relationship has worked.
And the other thing I'd like to add to that is, at the end of the day, nobody really has it figured out, right? There are how many countless businesses out there, right? Everybody has their own unique individual experiences. But it's the collective of that experience that we all as business owners need to learn from, right? And you make plenty of decisions, every single day that steer the course of your business, right? There are people out there who've done it before, but it's not going to be 100% the way you're going to do it, but you can always learn from that. So going back to what Joe says, it's all about having that growth mindset, having that open mind, and always understanding, you're not the first to do this. Other people have done it too. Learn from that, build upon that, and you can create something great.
And everybody that's listening, I hope that gives you a phenomenal insight to how Lovingly was started, a little bit about where it's been going on its journey, and how it can help you as the local community florist, floral designer, creative, business owner, entrepreneur, continue your journey to move forward and build a legacy if that's what you're looking to do. So make sure that you are a moment maker on the Facebook group. What are some other ways that people can connect with Lovingly?
Well, we have right now we have a chat on lumley.com. We have your basic, online forms there that people can fill out. But we found the best way that people get in contact with us is other florists. For the first 10, 11 years, right, Kenny, we literally did zero marketing. It was all word of mouth. So how they found us was other florists speaking on our behalf. The best way to connect with us is through phone, online, or social media.
Awesome. Sounds good. Check out lovingly.com. Make sure that you're a moment maker in the Facebook group, and be sure that you're a subscriber to Flower Shop Secrets. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for listening. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Flower Shop Secrets with Joe Vega. Peace out.
We want to help your business bloom. Check out more episodes of Flower Shop Secrets. Watch now on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for new episodes.